Yeah. Hi, weird. Hi, Seekers of Truth. I am the Weird Christian, and today well, I'm trying to start more stuff involved in politics, and so I'm just going to start off. I was thinking of just doing a rant and stuff like that about it, but I think it would be more rewarding and edifying to talk about qualities of a leader and there we go. And I just did a AI search, and this is what it said. And then I'll just make comments about it and continue on from there. So, qualities of a leader. Leadership qualities encompass a range of traits that are essential for guiding individuals and organizations towards success. Here are some key qualities that define outstanding leaders. Okay, here's one. Integrity. Leaders must be honest and transparent, adhering to ethical standards and building trust with their teams. Now, I'm not sure if that's, there's integrity. That's one definition of integrity. To me, integrity is to be consistent with who you are. So if you're an elitist, crazy person, and you're consistent to that, you have integrity to be consistent with that. It's when you say you're one thing, let's say you have, or you promote one thing and then you're actually another thing, then you don't have any integrity. Where you say you're, that you believe in honesty and transparency and adhering to ethical standards and building trust with their teams, whatever. You say that, but then you don't do that. Then you don't have integrity. Now, if you have, if your standards are abusing other, like this is your standards and this is how you present yourself. My standards are this. Or if it's well understood that your standards are that, and then you present yourself in those standards, you have integrity. If you have integrity of just being vicious and mean and arrogant and rude, that's your standard. Then you keep to that standard. You have integrity to that standard. Now, this is more of an integrity where you're trying to put on a morality that is consistent with maybe Christian values, I would say, not necessarily to other philosophical and religious values. Some places honesty is not considered valuable. It's not, and yet that's what everybody expects your leader to be, is not honest. Because that's how he can, manipulate groups. And you're in the team that's manipulating groups and people and stuff like that. And he's being, having integrity for being that way. And then he has integrity in his group. Now, the problem is when you have that kind of, if that's your goal as a group, then inside the group, then it can kind of, people will realize turns very Machiavellian, your group leadership structure. People are trying to outmaneuver and outflank and making little group, gangs to gang up on another and basically, it turns into a war. But even when you have integrity, you're going to be in a war. So it's just another war scenario. I think being honest and transparent, like there's groups that are honest, like their goal is not honesty. If you start being honest and transparent and you're in that group and you just don't go with the narrative that they have, then you're you're going to be kicked out right away because that they're not looking for honesty or transparency. And yet they have integrity in the group. They have their narrative. They have their hierarchy and structure and stuff like that. So this is does. But I agree that honesty and transparency and adhering to ethical standards, the ethical standard could be not being honest or transparent. That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's your ethical standard. There's certain religious groups and that's their ethical standard is not to be honest or transparent. Okay, so I'm just saying. Okay. I'm not going to name names. I could, but I'm not going to. Well, okay. I will name names because this is going to be the political thing. Okay. Islam is not honest or transparent. If you start questioning and trying to figure out their real history and you're within the group of Islam, they will kick you out and possibly murder you. Rushdoony is an example of that. He was just writing about their own writings and and they didn't like the way he was writing about it. That's all. So they wanted to kill him. They put death things on him. And there's many times when, and I talked to a Muslim. I said, I search for truth. Well, that wasn't important for him. He had his religion, and that was what was important. He's not looking for honesty or transparency. Now, there's other groups that are like that too, and some are more of it than others. Like the Republicans, they can be not necessarily on some on it. The people they say one thing, and then they do another. There's lots of that going on, so they call them Rhino Republicans. And the Democrats are even worse, where they say their enemies are, this and that. Well, they are doing exactly the same. Sometimes and they're even more vicious and violent at their game than Republicans are usually. So, but that's. So there's that going on all the time. In Canada, we have a lot of Rachel Notley. She was the NDP leader, and they say they're upright and they're honest and everything, and that they'll respect transparency. But then, if somebody comes and starts questioning their policies and stuff like that, and they don't know about it, and in their face, they will either exclude them or jail them or fine them or something like that. And they're not the only ones that do that. So they say one thing. Usually tyrants will say that they're doing whatever they're doing, their abuse of the people, for the good of the people and for the help of the people. So this is, it's almost like integrity in the sense of actually being, not trying to be dishonest, trying to be honest and transparent it's really, 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 really hard to find somebody that has integrity, like really hard. And then also when they do have integrity, you have to understand what their integrity is too. And it may not be what they say it is. They may say they're honest and transparent, which means that in practice, that you better toe the line or else you're going to be in jail or fined or whatever. Especially if you find, and if they have done some stuff, they'll be shredding and burning and breaking the evidence because they don't want to be transparent. Yet they say they are, and they'll claim that their group is like Hillary Clinton or emails or I'm just going to talk about some stuff in the States. The laptop, the FBI, they're supposed to be a loss a law group, and yet when they get, a laptop that shows prostitution, drugs, uh, uh, political kickbacks, and shenanigans for the benefit of the people involved, Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, they don't do anything on it. And then the media does the same thing. They're supposed to be media. They claim they're supposed to be upright and they're supposed to bring you the news anyway. But then you find that they don't. And a lot of people like Democrats and different people will disagree, but I just ask them, challenge them just to check on just one thing and find out if they're actually saying it as, in truth. Pick a topic, climate change, let's say, or trade, international trade, or immigration, all that kind of stuff. You just have to pick any topic and you find out whether they're actually, and do investigate. You don't have to investigate everything. You just have to investigate some things and find out if they're actually telling the truth about it. And then you'll find that they're lying. And then you say, well, I'm not going to believe them on that. Okay, you'll just have to try to find a source that actually might give you some truth. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that they've ever said is a lie. Some things they do say is truthful. And, you have to start being able to learn how to think. That's the problem, is people don't know how to think for themselves, how to use observation with reason and logic, and to come to some conclusions and be able to test that and see if what they learned or heard is actually true. So the problem is people haven't been able to they haven't tried how to think. They haven't done any thinking on their own. And so once they lose their authority figures telling them what is true, then they are completely, they'll sometimes go for the exact opposite story on everything and just throw out everything that they've ever heard. And without being able, they still can't judge what they're doing. Like they just, they may just believe something just because it's the opposite of what they heard in school or whatever. So, I'm taking examples like, the flat earth. They'll say they believe in maybe the Bible, but they believe in one version of the Bible, a translation, and they take everything kind of literally. Though when you actually question their literality, they'll change it. And they may even change the definition of the word literal in order to make it work. But so anyway, so just on integrity, we're having a huge problem. I haven't actually, some people are being more, having more integrity, yet at least they look, they have integrity until maybe you maybe know them better, or maybe they're, they may have excuses for why they're doing this and that, because especially in the political environment, if the narrative is, and everybody's accepted the narrative, which is a lie, let's say, and you start going against that and you're in politics, people, because you're not telling them what they want to hear or what they're being told they're supposed to know or hear, then you will lose your political position. You'll just lose it. So it's really hard to have integrity, and especially in politics. Because once you have integrity, the people will vote against you for a lot of things. So you just have to decide, am I going to have integrity, or am I going to worry about what people do? Right? So So, and then some people have integrity on some subjects, but then when another thing comes up, they are not consistent with their integrity, and so they cave because they've kind of, whatever reason, when, maybe usually when it's important to actually stand up, that's when they cave because there's pressure saying, do not do what you're telling everybody that you do. Because if you do, we're going to go after you badly. And so they cave or whatever. They may actually, and some may be actually just trying to deceive people. But usually people have their own kind of justification in their mind as the reasons why they can do that. They'll justify it somehow, whatever they do. And there's lots, like, I thought Jordan Peterson was pretty good until I think it was with a senator down in the States. He just, who was being maligned, falsely maligned, and just made allegations against. And he just caved, I think, when he was asked about it. And there's other times when he's kind of wishy-washy and caves, or just tells you what you think you should hear, but really, instead of just saying, this is who I am, this is what it is, I don't really believe this. Rather, he wants to, or maybe he just hasn't decided yet. I don't know. He could say, I haven't really decided yet, or whatever. But sometimes he just doesn't present himself consistently with integrity. It's easy when it's everything. I mean, sometimes for some, like, for the pronouns, he was this big thing, and he did that, and that was good. But then other things, he's not so integer. It has much integrity. But if you try to understand the person and their philosophies in life, then you can usually understand why they do what they do. And then you can communicate, if you ever get a chance, you can actually communicate with the person to help them understand themselves, and maybe you will learn more too, right? So these are things that I try to do. And people talk about Donald Trump, like, okay, they're doing politics. So, Donald Trump is, he's just doing what he can. He put himself out there. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's lost money being in politics. He's lost status with a lot of people that used to, kowtow to him and think he was Wonderbar. He's been, like, he had bullets shot at him. So, though I don't agree with everything he does, the guy knows he's in a war now, and maybe he'll be more serious about who he appoints around him and what's going on, this time around. And whether he'll last, because people are really want to kill him. I heard one fellow, and he believes the narrative's all told, like Donald Trump is going to get in there, he's going to bring his people in and change all the law. Well, what do you think's already happened for the Democrats? They've got a law system in there where they can just use warfare. And I think Donald Trump is actually going to try to bring people that are actually following law and have a background in law and know how important law is, and that it's not just using authority to bamboozle and overpower other people and just abuse other people, which seems to be the process that is going on in the Democratic Party. And it's going on too, I guess, to a lesser degree in the Republican Party. But, look at the cases that's happened. Like General Flynn, he used to work for the FBI. So some FBI guys came and talked to him for a while, and then they just used maybe a fault in his memory about a certain incident, and they said came back at him and said he was falsifying. Like, they had all the information. He made a few mistakes, maybe in dates and times and stuff like that. And so they said he was lying, and then they threw him in jail. And he had lost I think he lost his house, and they started threatening his family before before he caved in and said, okay, I'll make them guilty for something or whatever. So, that's the kind of justice system you want. Like, come on. And there's lots of, like, Roger Stone, he wrote a few books and has opinions. And he was, had a big, huge SWAT team of, I don't know, 20, 30 guys with machine guns coming into his place and, threatening him and taking him away. And his wife can't hear, and he was worried that she would get shot just because she couldn't hear, and they'd ask her to do something, so they'd shoot her. Like, this is the justice system that, I think that should be replaced. And then you had, there's an example of, to me, they had an example, and they had it all over the papers. These white guys, police officers in a correctional institute, killing a black man. And it was all over the place. Now, to me, well, for one, why are they doing this? Well, one of the reasons is they had the George Floyd incident where he died. He was in drugs and he was doing different things. Anyway, and the guy was pinning him down, and then they said that he killed him. But there was information coming out from autopsies and different things that what the officer was doing didn't kill him, right? It wasn't a thing that would kill him. It was mainly his drugs and his state of mind and so forth that killed him. So they wanted to continue with the narrative that the white guys are bad. So they have a bunch of, I'm sure, Democrat guys, and so they take a bunch of pictures and have this thing going on. And in the correction anyway, where they killed this black guy. Now, to me, and they throw it all over the newspapers everywhere. Like, why is that even all over the newspapers everywhere? Well, that's the reason. They want to they want to get the people to politically think in a certain way that all white guys are, to me, okay. So if you're going to show that, okay, it already shows a problem in the correctional institutes. And who trained these guys? Not only them, but who trained them, and how come it got so bad? So, what to me it's saying, okay, is it's time to, like, especially in that Christian, to gut the whole everybody from the top guy, the what would you call him? Not the dean, the guy at the top of the correctional institute, to the training people. They'd be guided out, and probably. You can see even in the court systems how terribly abusive they are. They should be all gutted too. Like in New York, should be just the whole system. Like everybody that's in there, just fired, and get some people that are decent. Maybe you won't have anybody. You might have to do a kind of it may take time because you can't just empty the whole system. Because it still has to kind of, well, it's not functioning now, but it has to kind of function, and then get some people that have integrity. So to me, that picture, and even those people that did the picture and did the whole, like the newspaper, that why are they doing it like this? Like, to me, it shows that they don't have any integrity. Like they're just making a political statement. I would almost go after those people too, because they're part of the whole gang, the whole system of corruption and abuse. They're part of the people that do this kind of stuff. They're part of the people that kill black people or white people or anybody that they don't like, and they have their narrative. So all those people should be out of the system, and possibly criminal charges against them, depending. And it's a mess. Like basically somebody has to come in with a bulldozer and just scrape all the crap out of there. And there's lots of crap. That's to me what should be done, but it's not going to happen. I know. And, but that's integrity. There's so little integrity everywhere. It's just, basically New York, probably to get it integral, you take an airburst asteroid to blow up like Sodom and Gomorrah, and then you'd have some integrity there. I mean, there wouldn't be anybody there, but you'd have integrity. Okay. because that's how bad it is. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah there. Abusing other people and that kind of thing. So, killer communication. I don't know if I should go through this whole thing. There's a whole list of stuff. But it's so obvious, for clear communication. Effective leaders convey their vision and goals clearly, ensuring that everyone understands their role and responsibilities. Well, I can even see, I don't know. I look at the policies and the things that Justin Trudeau says, and to me, he's clearly communicating, that he's a liar and that he's also has policies that are to destroy Canada and people around him. Right? So he's his words aren't. So to many people, he's saying something else. To me, everything that comes out of his mouth says that very clearly. But maybe it's just because it's how I understand what he says when he says it. Like he's kind of like a communist leader. He'll freeze Canadians' accounts and do all sorts of abusive actions against Canadians. But then he says, "I'm the people," and those people aren't the people of Canada. I'm the people of Canada. So to me, that's clear. He's a dictator and he's an abuser. It's very clear. But I don't think that's what they're trying to say there. Of course, they're not. And accountability, well, that's something that's completely not done in government or in court systems. Like the judges aren't accountable. You can't even do a what do you call it? Sequester a judge about his judgments or her judgments, and ask her if she actually signed the document or if she's alive or he's alive. Is that your signature? Can you explain why you did this and so forth? You can't do that. Judges aren't they're above the law. They consider the judges are the law. And you can't. There's no accountability. And in Parliament, especially if you're prime minister, and it's been like this for 100 years, but Justin Trudeau just kind of magnifies the problem. He's done all sorts of criminal activity, and even up to treason with declaring the Emergency Act when there was no. They didn't follow the requirements of the law, and because he did that, it caused a breakdown of institutions like the government system, the law system, the military system, the police system, the financial system, the economic system. So of Canada, all these institutions in Canada, and systems of Canada, he's been trying to destroy. And the Emergency Act was one of the obvious ones that showed him attacking Canada's institutions. And that was one of the reasons, because of the freezing people's bank accounts and it was starting to, people were moving their money out of the banking system, that he actually, they canceled the Emergency Act because it was causing such a shock through the financial system. So, and it caused terrible, confusion in the police and court systems. And to especially continue on in it, it just broke down the integrity of the government. So the longer he's in there, the more he's actually being treasonous to Canada and Canadians and all that stuff. So, but the Westminster parliamentary system and court system allows that kind of behavior. It's designed for that behavior. And he's just pushing it so that everybody can see that it's how failed it is. So there's no accountability. He'll never be charged for anything. And he'll go away with millions of dollars that he collected from, the We Foundation and all that kind of stuff. And so it's there's no accountability. So vision. People have, a clear vision for the future and be able to articulate it to inspire and motivate their team. So there's lots of that going on. It's clear in their mind, but when you actually, because they're all in a fantasy world, when you actually look into reality, their vision it can't work, and it fails on many levels and layers. So, and in government especially, so a clear vision you can see, and some of their policies are you realize that they just like let's say drug places where they give free drugs to druggies. What's the clear vision of that? The clear vision of that is because they don't want the people to die, and they want to have safe uses of drugs. Well, that's it's just manipulate, or it's what do they call that? Enabling people to have encouraging them to continue in their bad behavior, which will kill them. So it's not really caring for them. They say we're caring for them, but to them it's a very clear vision. They have their vision, and it's their fantasy world about how it'll work, but in reality it doesn't work. So I think you can have a clear vision. It's just that it's a clear vision of fantasy and a fiction, and so it doesn't really deal with reality. Self-awareness, well, that's usually not it's usually not happening for most people. I'm sure that Justin Trudeau is not self-aware too much about who he is, and he tries to keep himself away from being self-aware. I mean, there's some things he handles, I thought, quite well. When a person came up to him in a ski resort and they basically got to shake hands and said to tell him to, swear, get out of the BC. And he said, well, have a nice day. And to me, he did really well, actually, there. What else can you do when somebody comes up to you like that? But I think that Justin doesn't, he's in his bubble, and he likes to keep in his bubble. And when things get hard, and he likes to blame other people for his failures. So, it's a normal thing. That's, it's what Adam did. It's gone on for as long as mankind has been around. Having no self-awareness. It's really hard. It's only usually when you have self-awareness and you come into repentance for your inadequacies and your lack of vision, and you ask for help, that you become self-aware. And many people never come to that point. Courage, this is something that I've seen people with courage, taking on tough decisions and facing the challenges head on. Like Derek Reimer, he was worried about the way children are being abused by people that are cross-dressers and sexualizing kids and pedophiles. And they don't like being called that, but that's what they are, basically. And he took the courts. The courts have been, abusing him and taking him to trial, and he be considered a bad person because he made a noise about how bad they're treating the kids, and trying to sexualize them. When kids should just, they've got enough problems instead of all the confusion that these adults that are cross-dressing and telling them, that they're confusing them about their sexuality. Just forget about, why even don't talk about sexuality. Kids don't need to talk about that. Just let them live. Anyway, and Derek had a lot of courage, I think, and Derek Reimer. And, even Artur Pawlowski, he has had a lot of courage doing different things. He knew he would go, in fact, do things that were obviously going to cause him problems, and being told, "Hey, you should come down here" by somebody, and he says, "Okay, I'll go down there" or whatever. When why were they down there in the first place, and so forth, and was it just a psyop set up by the government so they could use it to say that these guys were attacking our infrastructure and they had weapons and so forth and all that kind of stuff. So, and a lot of good people went down there and they got criminally charged for doing something that was kind of set up so that they could criminally charge them. It was to me it was a way that they could, the federal government could say that these people were bad, even though they were doing the same things or worse, closing borders with different things. But when they do it, it's okay. And when somebody else does it, to say a point, and I don't even think they actually closed the border. They just limited it. They made it a little hard to get through. But the government does that, and it's okay. But somebody else in protest does that, and it's not okay. They're so hypocritical. It's unbelievable. The government is. They're a bunch of liars, and they have no courage. They have no accountability. They really have no vision. They don't do very much clear communication. They have no integrity. They fail in every one of these things. Resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward, is vital for sustaining momentum. I know people that do that, but they have, and they do have integrity. There are people that do have this, but they have to, in our government, where we have basically a very Orwellian government, these people have to, when they talk freely, they have to do it in groups where the Orwellian police state will not, criminalize them, go after them. So that's where we are in Canada. It's sad, but that's what's going on. Empathy. Yeah, that's really important. Showing compassion and understanding towards team members and can enhance morale, foster and support work groups. They're talking about team members and groups. I'm talking about nations. But, it is important to show compassion and understanding towards others. A lot of people don't. The themes in the Bible are much about that. Jesus had compassion for the people. Job was, and his friends were learning compassion. Don't just judge on people that are rich. If somebody's going through a hard time, just don't, crap on them. You should be trying to help them and not just say, "Oh, you did something bad," but, let's move forward. And maybe they don't even know, they're trying to make up bad things that Job did when he didn't do. So, and they get mad because he says, "Well, I didn't do any of that kind of stuff." Well, you must have, because look at what's happening to you. Well, their idea of the world, they had no empathy for a person's plight. And this is something that people have to learn about. There's the Good Samaritan story and so forth like that. There's a lot of empathy. You should have empathy, but you shouldn't enable bad behavior. That's not having empathy, actually. That's just kicking the person while he's down. And that's what certain people say, "Well, I'm really helping the world," but really they're kicking a person down because they keep supplying them with drugs or alcohol or money or whatever, to keep them in their state of denial and not growing up and abusing themselves and others. So, okay. Not really having empathy, but pretending that they do. Learning agility, being open to learn and adapt to new situations, is essential for staying relevant and effective. Well, that's true. Yeah. Everybody has that problem, to be, learning and being adaptive. Some of us just don't want to do it. for whatever reason. Flexibility. Leaders should be able to adjust their approach based on the situation and the needs of their team. Yeah, sometimes that can, that can be used to that works. Sometimes flexibility can work against actually continuing in the right direction. So you have to be aware. It's some of these things are kind of about. You have to have the rules to keep the flexibility within the reasonable way. You have to have goals, and you have to be flexible within those goals. You can't just start changing your goals to be flexible, and then just every time you have a problem, you change your goals. So then you never actually solve anything. You just keep changing your goals, being flexible. Well, you can't do that. That's not going to get you anywhere. So that's a really tough one, flexibility. Motivation. Yes, you need motivation. Inspiring and motivating team members to achieve their best is a hallmark of effective leadership. Yes, motivation is important. And everybody has to be self-motivated too. So you have to try to get people to be self-motivated, which is not easy, and get everybody on board. These are things, this is actually a really good list. In the political thing, it's if you go through this and you look for somebody that's like this, it's really hard. And it's just really hard to find anybody in any leadership is really, really hard to find. I don't know how many people there are people out there that are leaders, that are really leaders, have all these things. I know people that are like this, but and I can't even say I'm like this. I mean, they're real leaders. I'm not really a leader. And they're wonderful people. But in the and they can't. They're can be in the political sphere, I guess. It's really hard to be consistent with all this. It's hard to be a leader. I tell you, it's hard to be a leader. Collaborative relation, work effectively with others, and foster a collaborative culture. Okay, now that's important. That really is basically, you have to get in the same culture, which is not in the world. All cultures aren't the same. Some will never get to this point. Fostering a collaborative culture that can lead to better outcomes and innovation. That's really rare. To me, it's the real Christian culture. And, and somebody, you're just because you're a Christian. Well, yeah, I suppose it is. But the thing is that I'm not saying that all people that say they're Christians have that culture, because I've looked into Christianity, and actually I'm quite a critic of Christianity because it's accepted a lot of Zoroastrian Gnostic teachings into its fundamentals, and about God, man, atonement, and all this kind of stuff, what the message of the gospel is. And so it's not preaching what it should be preaching. And so because of that, it's preaching, especially in Gnosticism, that's very destructive. People think Gnostics is a very benign thing. No, it's a really destructive and violent and elitist group. They believe in predestination, that some people are damned just because they're against you or against them or whatever, and they are the enlightened ones. It's just a really elitist, vindictive, mean-spirited group, and they call themselves Christians because they're Gnostics. They don't even know that. Most of them don't even know what a Gnostic is, and many people are saying that Christianity was Gnostic. Well, Gnostics were around and were in Christian congregations, but Christianity itself is not Gnostic. And it has taken on Zoroastrian and Gnostic beliefs because just through history and accepting certain people's teachings, like Augustine of Hippo, who, though he was attempted to be a Christian, he couldn't get Gnostic Manichaean thoughts out of his head. He still thought about God in the same manner and men in the same manner for a lot of things. He doesn't say that he didn't have some good understanding of certain scriptures. I'm just saying that for his fundamentals, he just didn't get it. And that's sad. And then many people accepted his beliefs. Some people just went gung-ho on that, Calvin, and even Luther kind of went gung-ho on that. And it's basically Gnosticism they're believing. And they're not even aware of it. But anyway, so, and Catholics, they've got their problems. Like as Anselm's accepted built his theology off of Augustine also. And it's pragmatic, and it's got Zoroastrian thoughts in it. Most people Christians preach Zoroastrian theology in the gospel. I won't go into that right now. And those are all problems. That's very problematic, and it can lead to a lot of problems, serious problems of not being good to one another and not having effective law or authority. So anyway, that's my talk on leadership. Hope you got on that, got something out of that. It's kind of a meandering on. The excellent thing here, where you ever find a person that does all this, very, very rare. There are some people out there that have a lot of these things. They're quite good, and they're quite caring. They have all these qualities, and I'm just really happy. I haven't really supported them like I should. I feel bad about that. I'm not a leader. I can tell you right now, I don't have all these things. I'm just not there. I don't communicate that clearly. I'm not really that accountable. Like I could be so much more. A vision of the future. I do have a vision of the future, and I think it's a clear vision. It's a good vision. It's, basically from my Christianity. I feel I am self-aware. I have courage. I've faced tough things, but, other people have faced tougher things, and I haven't been, had to be thrown in jail or anything like that because of my decisions. Even though they may, sometimes I could have been exposed, but it never happened. Resilience. I kind of resilient, but I'm not that tough. I'm not that strong. If you threw me in prison, I'd just fall apart because physically I can't handle that. My body would just start dying really fast. But I guess bodies does, have problems. You're not getting enough sun. You're getting all sorts of abuse in prison. I don't believe in the prison system the way it's set up, actually. Yeah, empathy. I do have empathy for other people. I do seem to learn things, but I'm trying to get a team, but it's really hard to actually have a team working in the same direction. Flexibility, anyway, all these are good things. I think leaders should look at this and evaluate whether they're being these qualities. Are they really being these qualities? Do they have the self-awareness to really look at themselves and decide whether they have these qualities? Anyway, think about that. May God bless you and give you peace.